So we'll just hit the button. What button? A rock, y'all. A to the beach, y'all. It's your main man, Fo, checking here, y'all. All right, yeah, I like that level. What you got, Alan?
Hello, and welcome to Smash TV.
not quite TV yet.
Oh, that's
One
right.
day, one day.
Welcome to Smash Radio.
There you go. One day we'll rule all of the media networks.
Yeah,
That day is not today. Welcome to Smapcast, episode 30 something.
this is where the fun begins.
Looks like we have a title already. Yeah. This is actually, this should be a fun episode. I don't really have like a strict plan for it, which is kind of nice sometimes. And it's kind of it's May 2nd right now. So almost May 3rd. And you know what that means if you're a Star Wars fan or a lightsaber aficionado. Yeah, I mean, in the next couple days here, you're probably going to have a nerdgasm of the nth degree. Not to mention, well, actually, maybe we just have some built-in things to talk about because there's a lot going on this May the 5th, not just May the 5th, 4th, whatever. Not just with SMA, but like the Acolytes, right? Isn't that coming out?
In June,
In June, okay. But then we have Tales of the Empire that's coming out, I think,
May 4th.
yeah, like the day,
Yeah.
which is great. We also have The Phantom Menace coming out in theaters this weekend.
25th anniversary.
Oh, oh, oh. Like, all I could do when I think about it is make sound effects. Oh, so I want to talk about that a little bit tonight, just kind of some of the nostalgia and you know, I mean, for me, Phantom Menace just has a really special place in my heart because it's
Same.
like many people, I'm sure, and maybe like yourself, Alan, it's the first Star Wars movie. I won't say it's the first one I've ever saw in theater because I saw the special editions in theater, but the first new Star Wars, right? Of
Right.
yeah, like this is part of the advertisement, but like a whole generation, and
Well,
that's my freaking
it was
generation.
so Star Wars: The Phantom Menace was a phenomenon in itself
Let's just jump right into it,
because,
right here. Let's do it.
for sure. Well, the thing is, nobody bought a movie ticket ever to just go see the trailer. And
Oh
when the
yeah.
trailer dropped, Meet Joe Black had inflated numbers because people would just buy the ticket to go watch the trailer and
Oh
then
my
go to
gosh,
work.
was that the movie that
That
the
was the
first
movie.
trailer was on?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Meet Joe
And
Black.
so you're welcome, Brad Pitt. Um, and then like it was the first movie that movie theaters started to do midnight showings.
Oh,
Um,
that's a good point. Yeah.
yeah. So
I
I
didn't see
mean,
it at midnight. I remember I was about 11 years old, and I remember
yeah.
I had a date, so to speak, to see it with a good friend of mine. Um, Alas, I'm not even friends with this person anymore. It's a shame, but um, we had a date to go see it. His parents were going to take us on the third day it was out, so I didn't get to see it on the first day it was out. But you know, I was 11 years old. I wasn't going to ride my bike to the movie theater or something. I didn't even have enough money to buy my own ticket, which leads me to the next part of the story, which is that's the first time I went to movies pretty much by myself. And I actually did go to that movie actually by myself a couple times. And it was one of the first, like, I would say financially independent purchases I ever made were tickets to see the Phantom Menace. I would save up, you know, my $5 or $7 a week for allowance that I got, and like I think at the time a matinee was like $3.50. Can you freaking believe that? Like, I can't even like you can't even get a discount movie at Walmart for $3.50. So yeah, I spent lots and lots of $7 allowances on multiple viewings of the Phantom Menace, more than once by myself as an 11-year-old, going, "Mom, will you just please drop me off? I know you got to go to the grocery store, like the movie theater's right there. I'll keep the cell phone in my pocket, right?" Like, yeah, I have very fond memories of watching that movie in the theaters. And
So
yeah, go
I
ahead.
had a I had a slightly different experience
Okay, do
because
tell.
well it was so I loved Star Wars already, and I was going to art school at the time, and so I was surrounded by nerds, right? So like we went, I remember going to see the midnight showing, and people had brought out uh, the easily breakable extendable
Oh my gosh,
lightsabers,
yes. It was all we
and
had at the
they
time, though. It was
yeah
a flashlight with a little bit of what, bushing at the end or something that you could screw
yeah,
into, just a little threading at
and
the end.
then they did their thing, and that was great. But I remember I because I was in college, so I was very poor.
Damn, I felt
And
old when I said I was 11 at the time. Like, now that you told me you're in college, damn, Alan, you're old.
well, I remember it was again one of my formative movies
Yeah,
because
it's
it
true.
was
Yep.
also there were so many opportunities in that movie for what I was studying to be. So
Mm-hmm.
I studied to be a graphic designer,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, oh, yeah, check out this marketing tool. Hey, check out this marketing tool. Hey, check out this marketing tool. Because the juggernaut that was Lucasfilm had so much marketing for that movie that it was just everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember watching the movie and going, okay, when's the next one?
Well, and this
And
was a time when Lucasfilm, Industrial Light and Magic, all the
mhm,
Skywalker Sound, all these things had their
mhm,
fingers in so many different pies in Hollywood.
mhm,
Um, TV shows, just everything was being touched by Lucasfilm in some way. The
right,
Pixar
right,
computer, like all these
right,
things were just
right.
so. Yeah, I
ILM,
can imagine it was like this like Ronald's play place for you.
yeah, and ILM was just like that would have been a dream job, right? And then watching it though, like the day after we watched it, that's when all the hate came out about like Jar Jar and all that stuff. I was like, it was fine. It's a kids movie,
Yeah,
and like
I
I
know,
couldn't
dude.
understand like all the hate about it. And then I was like, well, in in a little while there'll be another movie, and it'll probably be the same thing. The people will hate it for whatever reason they'll hate it,
Yep.
and I'll be like, cool. Then there'll be a third movie, and I'll be like Darth Vader, you know. So so like it was an interesting uh, just to be able to sit back and watch, my friend groups, and my the people that were in the same uh, industry that I was just rip it apart, and I was like, but you like this movie that sucks,
Oh, I
and you
know.
like,
I know.
and I'm like, but
And it hasn't changed, right? It's been 20
right,
years. It hasn't changed. Uh, people accept like the prequels and things like that more, but like just and I'm guilty of it too. Like I had this saying with Bede, especially with video games, Star Wars video
mm,
games, but like, why didn't they call us first? Why didn't they just
right,
call us? We could have told them
right,
exactly what to do, exactly what to make, and would have made everybody happy. But of course, it's very arrogant and untrue.
right.
But you know, like
Well,
that's the first time I was exposed to that attitude, and especially like as a young man like that, like trying to figure out like what type of young man I was going to become, right?
right,
Like, you've got these really awesome, great examples of how a man should behave in the Phantom Menace, and
right,
then then you've got all these man babies watching it,
r- right,
ripping it apart all around you. That was a
right,
very interesting thing. Like to me, I couldn't even fathom at that time that somebody
hmm,
would dislike Star Wars. What?
right,
Are you
yeah,
are you freaking crazy?
yeah.
There's not a way in
Well,
the world I could have even thought I couldn't have even figured out a way. And then they were like, I know the way, Jar Jar Binks. And I was like, geez, really? Like that guy really bothered you that much? You just, I mean,
Yeah,
it's the same guy as Sanka from Cool Runnings. Awesome character, by the way.
right. Well,
Anyway,
it was like that. Okay, I understand your point, but you couldn't have made it better.
yeah,
That was my
yeah,
that was always my counter argument.
yeah.
It's like, how would you make it better? You don't have any ideas, huh? Okay, then shut up.
These guys aren't.
And
I say guys because most of the time it was guys complaining, but these guys aren't happy
yeah,
unless
right,
every movie has Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers like
right.
in Predator. You know, like
But but it's an interesting thing, right? Because like I feel like it's also the same people that hate the sequel trilogy.
it probably
And
is just a different
but
like age group sometimes. Not all the time.
yeah,
Not all the time.
but my point with the sequel trilogy was like, great. You guys didn't have a coherent vision. Okay, you wanted to see where it goes. Okay, that's fine. That's a whole different take. However, everybody that complains about it doesn't have a good way to do it any better.
I yeah. And I'm guilty of that sometimes too. Like
Yeah,
the the only thing that I feel I could do better sometimes is the fighting. Like
right,
but that doesn't matter.
right,
That's not the story. That's not the movie.
right,
The first of all, as far as the prequels are concerned, nobody could write a story like George Lucas. Uh,
right,
Nobody could tell a story like George Lucas. Now, I'm
right,
sure that that's a false statement on many levels, but just the surface level of what I'm getting at is the other storytellers that we hold in such high regard, the Steven Spielbergs, the
right,
James Camerons of the world, the
right,
Spike Lees and such. Let's be fair; these guys were influenced by George Lucas. George Lucas
right,
could give you a laundry list of people that influenced him in such a way, but
right,
you know the like the Phantom Menace was this completely eye-opening take on
hmm
his original vision of A New Hope, in my opinion.
right,
So it was like as an 11-year-old watching A New Hope, I feel like in 1999 I had that sort of same. I was hanging on to that same feeling, that they must have been hanging on to 20 years earlier.
right.
So I don't know. It's just
Well, I mean, this is an interesting thing, right? Because like,
mhm.
there's not a single person that hates Duel of the Fates. Like, I've never talked to anybody
not
who was
not a
like, Duel
single
of the
person.
Fates
I know
sucks,
the biggest
right?
haters of the Phantom Menace still talk about
Yeah,
that.
but like, so it can't be all bad, right?
Yeah.
And then like the the biggest haters, like when you talk to them about like certain things, they're like, yeah, but you're not doing it. So like your criticism makes no sense unless you have a better way to do it. Now, if you have a better way to do it, I'm all ears
Yep.
because it again, once again, it's art, right? Art is subjective. So if Star Wars isn't your thing, which there are a lot of people where Star Wars is not their thing, and I assume that's just because they just haven't watched it yet. But but it's
See, you can't fathom
and
a world where they don't like it either.
yeah. So I mean, okay. So truth be
Oh, it's
told,
funny.
my favorite movie is not a Star Wars movie. My favorite movie is Big Trouble in Little China,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and Big Trouble in Little China is insane. Like what you're asking the audience to believe in that movie is insane. However, when you peel back the layers and peel back the layers, it is absolutely brilliant because the movie asks you to follow a protagonist that thinks he's the hero when he's not even a sidekick. But you watch it through the eyes of quote unquote the white man, but you realize like all of the other characters in the movie, are these really competent, like really good people as well, like on his side
Yeah.
that actually are badasses. and then like it's his reactions to all this weird stuff that's happening to him that makes the movie great. Yeah, and so and Kurt Russell, who stars in that movie, says he talks about that movie all the time, and he's realized there's only two types of people: people that love the movie and people that haven't
Haven't
seen it
watched it.
yet.
Haven't watched it
Yes. So
yet. That's great.
I'm like, okay, I think that's how it is too.
I
But then
haven't
in
seen
my
that
mind,
movie since before I could even remember. I must have been
yeah,
super tiny when I saw that movie, so
yeah, I
I
mean
have to go
that
back and
movie
revisit
was
that.
that movie was insane. The character Raiden came out of that movie.
Yeah.
There's so many things that came out of that movie. That was great. But anyway, we're not talking about
No,
Big
no.
Trouble in Little China.
Back to the Phantom
But
Menace.
it did have great martial arts in it.
Hmm.
But the
That might be something to add to
the
our short list.
yeah, but for Star Wars though, right? So we have 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace.
25th. Why did I
We
keep
have
saying 20? 25th. Ugh.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and then there's even more stuff that's happening. Um,
Yeah, we'll get
for
back into the Phantom Menace later because there's a lot of martial art. I
so
want to talk about the martial arts of that. But yeah, let's
yes,
talk about what else is coming up this weekend.
yesterday was May 1st, also known as the 501st day. So that
Oh,
was
yeah.
fun.
True.
May 4th, of course, is May the 4th be with you, and May 5th is Revenge of the 5th. Um,
I'm a big fan of Revenge of the 6th, but hey, whatever.
well, the Revenge of the 5th could last till the Revenge of the 6th,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
really up to.
yeah, yeah.
But May 14th is George Lucas's birthday.
That I didn't know.
Uh, yeah. May 16th is the anniversary of Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
May 19th is the Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Fifth's anniversary.
Oh, see,
Sorry, I just said
I
that.
was wrong on
Revenge of
that.
the Sith anniversary.
I was wrong on that. I said
Um,
it came out on the 25th. I was wrong about that.
yeah.
But A New Hope did.
Uh, yes, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and Solo all came out on May 25th.
Okay, okay. Oh, Solo is
Um,
underrated, man. I love that
uh,
movie.
it's great.
Oh, it's so much fun.
May 20th is Empire Day, uh, and The Empire Strikes Back is May 21st.
That's great.
And
May
so
is
that's
the month for Star Wars fans. It just really is. And honestly, I kind of feel it. Um,
mhm,
the last few years have been tough for me. You know why? But
mhm,
uh, this time of year, I throw a Star Wars shirt on and like go outside and like do yard work or whatever. I just like feel
mhm.
good, you know? Or I
Right.
go out to the grill and cook some cheeseburgers or something and I'm wearing a
Mhm.
Star Wars tank top and like flip like I just feel right about it, you know? And I think it is something about May. I think it is something about like all these good things that have happened in our lives as Star Wars nerds at this time of year. Like you're just kind of like genetically predisposed to feel good now at this time of
Right.
year. Like I'm wearing a Star Wars. I have not taken a Star Wars shirt off in like 6 or 7 days. I mean, I've obviously changed which one I'm wearing, but yeah, like I've worn one to bed. I even wore them to work last week.
Sure.
Like when my gym shirts were all in the wash. Like it's just I don't know, man. There's just an energy about it, a force,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
So
Um,
um
yeah, and everybody wants to do something.
yeah yeah, yeah
Uh,
that's what I was just gonna say. It's sort
that's
of
the other
like
thing.
buzzing with activity.
Hmm. And it's an interesting phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
So I can't think of, wow, actually, is there anything like this phenomenon where a intellectual property just like takes over a month?
I'm trying to think of it now. Like
I mean,
not really.
yeah,
I'm sure
but
in certain fan groups there are
mhm,
certain fandoms that might get that similar treatment, but no, not like all over the
right,
world
right,
where
and
people in
that's
different countries know what
right,
May the 4th be with you means.
right, and it just happens to be Saturday, you know.
I know.
So
How convenient and awesome is
yeah,
that too?
yeah. So like everything other everybody tries to do like a Star Wars thing,
Yep.
right?
I'm
Around that time.
participating in something next Thursday. It's
Hmm.
intended for Saturday celebration, but they're just not doing it on a Saturday. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what? Anyway, there's so many things I can't even keep up with my own mouth. Um, so let's dabble into what some of our friends might be getting into. I know Courtney in Virginia with Saber Light Nights. They have an event going on. I believe like a teach and train sort of event,
Hmm.
um, and that's in Charlottesville, Virginia. So if you're in that area,
Yeah.
um, this episode will have aired by then. But we've talked about it before in other episodes, so hopefully some
Yeah.
people have heard on here and may get a chance to go out to that. We
Right.
have Tony and Aiken Saber Academy that are doing a bunch of things down there in South Carolina and I believe in Georgia as well. Um,
Right.
like I said, I'm here in Ohio. I've got something going on at the library next week.
Hmm.
And then, of course, we've got Saber Mayhem in a couple of weeks. By the time
Hmm.
people are hearing this episode, that will likely not have happened yet. So
Yeah.
um, they will still have time to check that out. Strategicon and GameX convention at the LA Hilton,
Hmm.
and or check us out on. I don't know if we'll be able to actually do YouTube live. We'll see how the connections and things go, but definitely there will be video podcast content within a day or so of that. We're going to do a panel and release that ASAP to you fine people. Um,
Yeah. Uh, Lightsaber Open 2024 or Open de Sabre Laser 2024 is in Geneva, Switzerland this
oh, there you
Saturday.
go. There you go.
Um, the Ragnarok Open Regional Tournament is in Minnesota. There's a bunch of May the 4th demos in Florida and uh, so many
I can almost
things.
guarantee to just like type in May the 4th and your zip code, and
Hmm.
you'll probably get some hits. Movie
Right.
theaters, especially with like,
Hmm.
there may be some screenings of like Tales of the Empire.
Hmm.
There's just things. There's activity alight, a buzz. Um,
Oh yeah.
what any other of our organizations that you know of doing something specific for May the 4th?
I know Aiken Saber's doing some stuff.
Yeah.
And apologies if I don't have all the details on this stuff, but if you are in the South Carolina area, you know what I'm talking about. He's
Hmm.
on your feed. Um,
Yeah.
there's just
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
there's so many things going on for May the 4th that you know there's not enough time on the podcast for us to just say them all. But
Yeah.
if you have something, if you put the uh, if you look at events in your area, you'll see something probably lightsaber based or at least Star Wars based. I know a lot of the 51st Legion have they're the official cosplay um, group of for Star Wars. They actually go out and do like children's hospital things and do
Hmm.
stuff. So like Vader and the stormtroopers come see you if you're sick.
Yep.
It's really cool stuff.
And
There.
the cool thing about the 501st, in my opinion, I can't speak for everybody. I sometimes anyway, I won't say a single bad thing. The coolest thing to me about the 501st is that their costumes have to be screen accurate. They
Yeah.
have to be as screen accurate as possible. They can have
Yeah.
little deviations here and there, but they have to be approved by Lucasfilm's like basically
Hmm.
costume department or something like that.
Yeah. Correct.
And that to me is just very cool because it just that's good kung fu, right? Like
Hmm.
your cosplay is good kung fu. You are showing great skill at something over time and practice, and a lot of these people really put like incredible time and effort and intellectual power into their
Hmm.
costuming, and
Yeah.
they do it
Eh,
for free, like for
yeah.
people. who are sick, or even just like at a movie theater, for people to enjoy actually seeing a stormtrooper right there before they go
Yeah.
watch one on the screen. Like, it's just super cool to me.
You know who else does that really well? The droid builders.
Mm-hmm.
Droid builders are so cool.
Yep. And
It,
there's other costuming groups. It's not just the 501st, but the 501st is, and I believe the Droid Builders are as well. They're actually Lucasfilm
yeah.
approved and reviewed, and man, it's just such a cool thing. And I feel like in a little way, that's kind of what we do, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're taking this thing that, again, Papa George did for us, and
Hmm.
we're just like running with it. These
Right.
501st people, they just took this idea of molding plastic and ran with it. And
Mm-hmm.
the droid builder, it's just incredible stuff. And I feel like the lightsaber stuff is that, and there's so many good people doing so many good versions of martial arts with the lightsaber. It's
Right.
a lot of them don't even realize that's what they're doing. I've come to realize
Right.
this as especially like lately, as I'm scrolling through social media or I'm watching stuff. Like, a lot of people don't even realize they have like decent martial arts when they're swinging their sabers around. Um,
Right.
and they might not even ever realize that. They might not have anybody like me to tell them that. Hey man, you actually look pretty good doing that. Maybe you should
Yeah.
actually practice or something. Go find a
Right.
martial arts school. I don't know. So maybe there we go. Maybe this is a little call for our listeners, or our friends and students or whatever, to, this May the season,
Mm-hmm.
maybe reinvigorate your fandom a little bit. And if that's a lightsaber thing, great. Like,
Right.
start picking it up. Maybe find a martial arts school. Get in contact with us. We're gonna be doing more holocron content and things like that anyway. So I do private lessons. I do them online. I do them in person. I know you do as well. Like, whatever. So yeah. Um, maybe this is a good call to action to kind of reinvigorate yourself a little. Pick up a Star Wars video game you haven't played in a while. A book. Um, I've got the the book Brotherhood, or I think it's called, with
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan and Anakin. I just recently started it. Like, that's my goal, is by the end of May to have that book finished. Just, find something, because um, something that we mentioned, I don't know, several episodes ago, which was like, it's so easy to kind of get into that. Um, it's cliche, but to get into that rut of like, go to school, go to work, go to, the job, the daycare, whatever, take the trash out, mow the lawn, make the dinner,
Mm-hmm.
like, do something for you. And if Star Wars is
Right.
what makes you happy, like, find out why again. If all you've been doing with Star Wars lately since the sequels released is complaining and moan about how you don't like how Rey is OP in one movie, like,
Mm-hmm.
find something you like again, and go back to that thing, and do it again. Like, nobody said that you have to like all the new stuff, or be the biggest fan of the new series on Disney Plus, or like,
Right.
if all you like is Heir to the Empire, first of all, sorry, but whatever, go back and read it for the 95th time. Like, call to action, go back and reinvigorate your Star Wars fandom a little bit this month. It's
Right.
important. It's important to me, and I
Right.
think it's, if you do it, you will find that it has become important to you again. Anyway,
Right. Well, that's an interesting point though. Is this is a good time to reinvigorate yourself
yeah, yeah,
to your Star Wars nerddom,
yeah.
if
The
you
seeds
will,
are already
because
planted, so to speak. Right,
because
the soil
every
is warm.
because you'll see it everywhere. Everybody's into
Yep,
it.
yep.
Like even
Plus,
people
two
that
new
are
series releasing this month on
right,
TV. Like, yeah, it's you can't not look to your right or left and see Star Wars. Go for it.
right,
Dive right in. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's good.
right,
Yeah, it's a good
and
point.
I mean the the Bad Batch just finished
Yeah, no
yesterday.
spoilers. I'm only halfway through the
Yeah,
season. No
yeah, no,
spoilers.
no spoilers, but it's the Bad Batch, and it's at that point in the story where things are probably gonna go bad.
Yeah, the
It's in the
Empire's about to
name
strike
of the
back.
show. Yeah, it's the name of the
Yeah.
show. But when you're going through this, uh, and the fact that you're listening to this as well, it's a great time to
Yeah.
just say, yeah, you know what, there is a community out there, and what flavor that community
And
is
thank you for being part of ours,
yeah,
which is growing. It's small at the moment, but it is growing. And that's because some of you people find this as a way to invigorate your fandom. And honestly, that's a big compliment to me.
yeah,
I know it is to you as well, to think that like our passion for this nerdy thing or
right.
things, the martial arts, the Star Wars, the all of it, like that other people have resonated with that, even if it's just one other person, which it's about 1,000 now, all over the globe. So that's,
Yeah.
I mean, 1,000. I didn't even think that was going to
So
happen a couple years ago. So
let's talk to the thousand fans
yeah.
about something that's near and dear to our hearts. Form 7.
Mm. Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah. Talk about
so
invigorating some fandom right now. Yeah.
yeah.
This is a good time.
So
I got a
so
fresh cup of coffee too, man. I'm juyoed up.
nice. So Juyo, right? We talked about that before, right? What if we were to take uh, a Google Translate and figure that out in Japanese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ju, as in judo or in jujitsu, means what?
Well,
Gentle.
I didn't know that, but I maybe did
Yeah.
know that. I knew that jujitsu meant like gentle art or gentle way but
So judo means gentle way, do, right?
okay, yeah, judo, yeah,
And then jujitsu is gentle skill,
gentle skill, okay.
right? So
But
different.
also, isn't that the Japanese word for 10?
What's that?
Jew? Isn't that how you say 10?
Uh, I don't
Like
think
Jew
so.
or Joe, depending on like the context. I
Well,
know when we taught our little
J.
tigers to count to 10, Ichi ni san shi go roku shichi hachi kuju is how we said it. Now I might be slightly
Maybe it's
pronouncing it
spelled.
wrong.
Maybe it's spelled different because, as far as I know, JU also means tree.
Oh, you might be right about that. Yeah, it might be spelled differently. And I
Yeah.
might be pronouncing it wrong because I
Yeah.
know that Jodan, or I think that's how you say it, is 10th degree.
Mhm.
Anyway, keep going, Alan.
But it was,
That's a
I think,
fascinating fact.
right. So, well, first of all, let's talk about what Juyo is,
It's not
right?
gentle,
So,
that's for sure.
yeah. So, the word for it is vicious, right? It's supposed to be malignant grace, right?
Malignant grace.
Yeah.
That is a fitting description for both Darth Maul and Mace Windu.
Right. So when we're looking at it, it actually means turn around in Hausa, Hausa,
Mm,
right? The the Juyo in Japanese means trophy or prize.
okay.
So
Which is
there's like,
as the seventh form, if you can get to there,
hmm
you could say it's sort of like a prize at the end of your training too, or end,
hmm
or as the last part of your training.
right. So whenever you're looking at this, number one, it's a quote unquote made up word,
Yeah, right.
right? And it's not directly Japanese or anything like that. But the idea was um, malignant grace, right? So you're actually doing a almost like a dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, by the way, Hausa is a Nigerian um, people, Hausa, Hausa, um, which is a bunch of the people in Chad in parts of Nigeria. So if we were talking to the people in Africa, Juyo means turn around. Yeah. So it's a whole thing. But when you look at Juyo in the text of Fight Saber, in the text of the Jedi Path, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the forbidden form, right? Because it's meant to do what? It's supposed to harness your rage,
Yeah.
your fury, your
Ferocity.
intent, your intent to hurt.
Well, yeah, it's called the ferocity form, and
Hmm.
like I like the way you just said that your intent to hurt. Like that was Mace Windu's whole thing when he was developing the Vapid variation on it, which was
Mm,
you have to allow yourself to enjoy basically hurting someone else,
right.
which is very un-Jedi like,
Hmm.
which is probably why it was forbidden for almost all of them to study it, without like Mace Windu's explicit permission and tutelage.
Right.
I can't even think of off the top of my head. I'm looking right now at. So I have, I see some here: Jedi Masters, Kavar, Zez-Kael, and Vrook Lamar. Okay, great. That's like old Republic stuff. So basically, for thousands of years, no Jedi, no Jedi were messing with this except Mace Windu
Right.
and Sora Bulk. And Sora Bulk fell to the dark side. Depa Billaba
Oh,
brushed with the dark
they
side.
they all fall to the dark side,
Quinlan Voss,
right?
another one who like he realized like I'm already creeping on the dark
Mm,
side, like
right.
dotted line. I don't need any of this Juyo to make it any easier for me.
Right. And,
Um,
so the idea here is that you have the intent to hurt your opponent,
you're
not
giving
just
yourself to the fight in a way.
right, right, and so this is the equivalent of what the dude bros that say I don't need to learn how to fight, I just see red. This is what they want to be. This is
Yeah.
not actually what they are, but this is what they want to be.
Yeah.
But the thing about this is that every practitioner of Judo has done all the other styles before they got to Judo.
Yeah. Well, and that's
So,
the way I teach it too, and I don't teach it. Like,
hmm,
I just don't have any students who are there yet. I haven't. In I can't even think of. I can think of one who could potentially handle the technique of it and such, but like it's not her style. It's not her
right.
personality. And like I feel like this is one of those forms that like of course everybody wants to learn it because Darth Maul, because Mace Windu, because it sounds dope, because it's the last one. But
Well,
I mean, I don't know about you, Alan. When I teach Form 7, I don't even actually really teach different techniques. Like I'm really refining techniques from other forms to fit that notion of just kind of winning, just kind of fighting and like you said, hurting the person. I mean, not like when we're sparring and such, not physically hurting the person, but I mean, scoring, cutting that limb, cutting that, constantly looking to cut them. Um,
right. So that's the thing I was getting to is like you can quote unquote teach Form 7, but unless you know Form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Form 7 means nothing.
it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the love for pain and causing it. It's the sadomasochistic, you know, edge lord idea.
I think of it almost as being like the worst sparring partners that everybody hates tapping gloves with.
Right, right.
Just
It's
constantly turning every match, every sparring match into a fight,
right, and it's the lack of control. Um,
or
eh,
depending on, yes, lack of control is what characterizes the form as something that people can't handle. But
right,
then you have the Darth Maul version, which is ultimate control by giving yourself to the lack of control, right? Like
right,
complete and utter unbridled fury, as it were. versus the Mace Windu version, which is complete and utter control um, to the point of what's the term, submissiveness, to where your fighting style submits to your will, as it were. Um,
Right. So that let's point that out though. There
yeah,
is
yeah. Go in. That's a deep cut to get into.
th there's Juyo, which is the canon dark side, direct attack in kinetic form,
If you
less
play
elaborate.
KOTOR, yes, it is. It is available
Yeah,
to Jedi to learn.
yeah.
Yes, we know.
But less elaborate than Ataru, but
Hmm.
very much not as graceful. But like almost like in music, and you come from a musical background,
Hmm.
so like this is like a staccato, like a
Yeah.
just like this seemingly unconnected like
Hmm.
jazz thing that
Syncopated
happens.
rhythms and.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
then just like being able to have un or unrecognizable or broken rhythm
Yep.
constantly,
Yep.
and that's kind of the idea where there's nothing that's repeated. Ideally, that's
Mm.
the idea of that, and Juyo again is one of those things that you can't teach. Really,
No, you're
there's not
no,
like.
you're kind of like, yeah.
However,
People don't like to hear that though.
yeah. However, you can learn Vapad,
Yeah.
and Vapad is kind of the tempering of that, and Vapad is more being able to see yourself getting there and pulling yourself back. A state of mind that's basically like, oh, I'm I'm getting to that point where I can do this, but I do it with control. I um so in the canon, it's like I think Mace Windu talks about a dark side loop. So they accept the attack of their opponent, and then they basically turn it back upon them in like the idea of that they they come back at them with the same amount of ferocity, but not totally giving into it. Um, and it basically is this like idea of being able to match your opponent
Yeah, I'm reading it right
with
now. You want to hear the quote? So I see here. This is from Wikipedia,
sure.
which I believe that whoever added this to the article took this information almost verbatim out of the Shatterpoint book, which is
Mm-hmm.
where Vapid is most deeply discussed in legends or canon. Or actually, I think Shatterpoint these days is kind of in a gray canon.
Mm-hmm.
So take that with whatever you'd like. But here, what you're talking about, it says right here, it's the second sentence. The practitioner of Vapid would accept the fury of their opponent, transforming themselves into one half of a superconducting loop, with the other half being the power of darkness inherent in the opponent. So that's a deep, meaty sentence to chew on. And I feel like if you've done MMA or wrestling or jujitsu, even judo, something where there's like these moments of real hard, fast action broken up by sort of like still intense, slower, maybe not as tough, but like still exhausting, you know what I mean? Activity.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Sure.
but then when your opponent, like we kind of said a little bit ago, doesn't really get the memo that you're just sparring,
Right.
and for you to not like lose your own cool in that moment, but be able to still defend yourself coherently without like getting emotional about it, and or maybe like enjoying the emotion of like they're feeding you all this anger, but it's just making you more skillful. It's making
Right.
you exhibit more skill.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when I'm sparring like that, like when I'm sparring in MMA, and there's like I'll realize as I tap gloves with somebody a few moves in that like they're in it to prove something for the next 3 minutes. Um,
Right.
I sort of get into that mode where it's like, okay, well, they're going to be feeding me this power, this speed, this intent to break my nose or whatever the case is. I have
Right.
to like not let that affect me the way they want it to, not let me get me angry, not let it get me hurt or knocked out, not let them get the takedown that they want so desperately, right? Like, and I start to get this like it says here in this next sentence or one of these sentences here, like enjoying the fight, enjoying, relishing the satisfaction of winning is what it says here, in the sentence before that. So like when somebody really wants to win against me, and then like I'm stuffing their takedown attempts, I'm winning in the clinch, like all the things that they thought they had the upper hand, and I'm stuffing their attempts. Like it makes me so happy. I start to relish the winning of it. So
Right.
I experienced this Form 7 mostly out of saber combat, mostly in unarmed sparring. Um, and I think that also comes down to being a teacher sometimes, like when you're sparring with your students and your students feel like maybe they got a leg up on you one night, right? And then like you just kind of open up a little bit of can of whoop ass that like everybody seemed to forget why you were the teacher, right?
Sure. I see it
um,
that way.
and it's just a teeny little can of whoop ass, right? It's like you just like crack the seal on the can, but
Right.
just I feel like a lot of times less experienced people, even fighters who I work with who have had fights, but they haven't had that sort of vibe transferred back to them, superconducting
Hmm.
looped back to them, right?
Right.
They haven't had that attitude stuffed right back in their face in a way that wasn't anger or vitriol, right?
Sure.
It was just controlled ass whooping.
Sure. You
Um,
know who's a master of that? Gravity.
okay, I think we have a title for this episode. Oh man, gravity is the
Because
ultimate vapid master. That's
like
maybe true.
yeah, because nothing in this world will humble you as much as tripping over open ground.
Oh my gosh, I
You're
know.
just
And the whole world wins and relishes in that victory when you trip over something unseen or whatever. Yeah.
right. Or even just if you trip over nothing. If you trip over nothing,
Oh god,
right?
it's the best
And it's
watching
just
somebody
like
trip over nothing.
and you're just like, you know, I've done martial arts my whole life and I know how to walk, but for some reason I missed that stair or, I stubbed my toe or whatever it is. And, thankfully I know how to get up, I know how to adjust so I don't fall on my face. But it's like one of those things that you're just like, oh yeah, that's right. Gravity always keeping me down, you know. It's it keeps you humble.
It's interesting that you say that. I'm reading in this next section here on Wikipedia. Um, it's called applications of
Hmm.
Form 7, and um, they're taking some info out of the KOTOR games, Knights of the Old
Hmm.
Republic, and it
Sure.
says that Juyo was highly effective against an armed opponent, though much less against a foe skilled with use of the Force. And I think about that. Um, that's really really interesting to me.
Hmm.
Like it's so focused on the blade combat, on being so incredibly efficient with the blade and the mindset of a blades of a swordsman or a swords person, right? That it almost ignores the force if it's not to assist the sword fighting.
Right.
Uh, and that's kind of like a real broad stroke. Um, but seeing that here, The next thing, Master Kavar, a colleague of Zezkael, advised Juyo for use in quickly overwhelming a single foe as well, but cautioned that it left one vulnerable to force attacks such as those employed by Dark Jedi. Yeah, like if you're so focused on the blade work, even if your blade work is amazing, if somebody were to just force push you, like that would completely throw your game off, right? Like it's the same as a
Absolutely.
great kickboxer, but you could be kicking somebody in the head. If they got the chin to resist that, then they get you down. Like that takes all the wind out of your form 7, right? Like
Right.
if you're a great puncher kicker, or you're an excellent submission grappler, um,
Mhm.
and somebody's just defensive enough that they've got like basically that little force push, they just know exactly when to apply the right force power, so to speak. Um,
Mhm.
you're so far deep into lightsaber land that you know you're vulnerable. I didn't even really think of it that way, but it is true. And though we can't use force powers here on Earth, some people believe they can. They can't. Um, but though we can't, it's still kind of like a really good Ceresu practitioner.
Sure.
Juyo practitioner is going to have a hell of a time with them.
Right. Well,
Because they're just going to have those little answers for them.
right. Well, that's the thing about at least the description of it, right? Is the fact that it's a kind of all in to the attacks sort of form, much like a Taru, but a little bit less. Um, what's the word? I guess controlled. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, there's a thing about you know that. No, let's talk about like doing this or people that are emulating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're emulating this, the thing is that it's not healthy in the long term, right? It's not healthy in the long term because there'll be nobody to train with
Yeah,
eventually.
I wasn't kidding about that. Like, it does
Yeah.
turn you into the sparring partner that people don't want to
Hmm.
be with.
Right.
Unless you're, like I was describing earlier, if you're going with that person, then yeah, maybe
Hmm.
you need to turn your little Juyo mindset on, your little Vapid mindset on. Um, but yeah, I
But
kind of
even
use
that,
them interchangeably, to be honest with you, Alan. And I
sure.
know they're not interchangeable, but they kind of are. Like
Right.
you can't do the physical without the right mindset,
Right.
and you can't have the mindset unless your physicality has experienced what it's like.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like the idea of you know I just see red. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I see people that say I'm a Juyo practitioner. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, buddy, you know.
Yeah. So you've got the
But it's
mindset, or at least you
yeah,
think you do,
yeah.
but like, yeah, there's a lot that
But
goes into it.
to be completely honest, if somebody says, "Oh, I practice for pod," or I have a version of a pod that I do, I would pay more attention to that because that means that they've probably done again form 1 through 6.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone through that whole idea, and that way they can actually uh, and because they say they're doing Fapad and not Chuyo, chances are they have that temperament,
Mm-hmm.
that um, tempered aggression, I guess,
Yeah.
or tempered ferocity that can come out, and they can bring it down if they need to. That to me is more Form 7, in
Yeah.
a better aspect.
I think it's
Um,
maybe something useful, because this idea of you can't teach it, there's you can still present it, right? Like you can still
mhm,
have Juyo or Vapid in your Saber school, or one, whatever. Um,
right.
and I think a lot of, like, if you have some very competitive students, maybe you go to a lot of tournaments, or even just within your own group, if
Mhm.
if you have some people who really enjoy sparring, and they're good at it, if they're already a good person, right? Like they already have a clean mindset,
Mhm.
that is the kind of person that you can maybe teach a little bit of how to unlock their inner Juyo, right? Like if somebody's just already a good person, they're not going to be so easily corrupted in the sense of like wanting to hurt the other person, but they're going to be able to appreciate what you're telling them about, like, it's okay to enjoy winning. It's okay to feel good about scoring points. It's okay to feel good about hitting them first or blocking their strikes. Like there is this weird thing sometimes where like people will like feel bad that something worked right or that they did something correctly, especially in martial arts where like the consequence of you doing something correctly is that another person gets hit or gets, hurt or whatever. Even just pretend hurt, like sometimes people, oh, you teach them how to do a rear naked choke. They actually do it. The person actually taps and they go like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, no, they tap because you did it right. They're telling you did it right. They're also telling you stop doing it now, right? Like, stop doing it right. Let me go.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the difference between Juyo, which is I put my guy in a rear naked choke and I won't let him go when he taps. You know, I have to make sure that he's unconscious before I let him go.
Right. Versus
Versus
Vapid.
Juyo, Vapid, which is versus Vapid or Vapad or however you want to
Yeah.
say it.
Vapad.
And
Vapid.
Vapid, right? So that's the difference. But again, it's much like Xian and Gem So for Form 5. They're two sides of the same coin. Right?
You really can't have one without the other, though in canon they're often discussed exclusively, if that makes sense.
Right, but again, it's like the
made
person that quote unquote made it in the story.
Yeah.
Right, is he and one other master, right, did it, and they taught one other student, and they banned everybody else from doing it. So like, grand total of 3 people.
Yeah.
Could pull off a pod, and 2 out of those 3 fell to the dark side, and 1 fell out a window.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So when you're
let's talk a little bit about the actual physical style of Vapid a little bit, and like and versus Juyo, because we were talking about the Phantom Menace earlier. Who's in the Phantom Menace? Everybody's favorite Juyo practitioner, Darth Maul. So there's that, which is also interesting to me that he uses a double-bladed saber, because that definitely gets into the Ataru side of the double-bladed saber versus the Suresu side. And to me, those are really the double-bladed sabers made for forms 3 or 4, which is, again, like heads and tails of the same coin. But like, it's very clear that like when Darth Maul fights, and it's also because Ray Park is a phenomenal martial artist, but just that it's about the martial arts. It's about the fighting. It's about the physical nature of holding a sword and killing something with it. Right. Versus when Mace Windu fights, it's almost more like samurai in nature. There's like a certain stoicism about him where it's like you can almost see, and again, it's an actor doing a thing and it's Samuel L. Jackson, but the character was based off of Samuel L. Jackson. George Lucas said, I want Samuel L. Jackson in my movie. This is the character that he's going to be. He's going to be the Jedi that Sam Jackson would be in this universe, right? So that mindset of like, you can almost see it of like he's resolving himself to become this badass again. It's sort of like, I think of it like Batman. Like Mace Windu is wearing the Bruce Wayne mask all day long. And when he ignites his lightsaber, he finally gets to put his real face on, the bat cowl, right? Like he finally gets to become the real person he is inside. And he never quite crosses that line, that Batman line of not being the person that your enemies are. But the dotted line of still doing the horrible things back to them that they do to innocent people. So I
with your
definitely
with
get
your
that from Mace
comparison,
Windu. Mm-hmm.
there, that's a very good um, way to compare, like the difference
Yeah.
between the Punisher and Batman,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, how about that?
So
Tickle that ivory for a little bit.
yeah, so if you think about it, the Punisher, he wants results, which is, you know, no more criminal activity from this person, it, not just tonight but forever,
Right.
right? Whereas
Tangible and
Batman,
immediate results driven
right,
actions. Yeah.
or Batman has, or at least the comic book Batman has has the code of no killing, right? I'm
Right.
not gonna kill. I'm gonna do everything up to that point. I will maim, I will blind, I will toss you in an acid bath, but I won't kill you.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll do everything I can to you know make sure that I'll try to save you. Um, Now, depending on the writer, of the movie or the comic book, that line does change. But
Yeah.
in most canons, that's who Batman is, right? He'll
Yeah.
go up to the edge, and then he'll bring you up before killing you.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll beat you, an inch before death. So that's kind of like Juyo and Vapad to me is the that kind of line, like the difference between Punisher, who could, if he really wanted to, you know, uh, probably be Batman, but he decides not to.
Right.
He decides,
Right. That's really
but
interesting. First of all, two of my favorite characters, so I'm all about this comparison right now. Um,
mhm,
but I always kind of like, um, I just really like this comparison. Um, that
mhm,
it's really interesting because the Punisher is all about the technique of it, right? Like
mhm,
getting things done efficiently and
mhm,
in mass,
mhm,
and sort of being so much better at what the bad guys do than everybody
right,
else,
right,
right? But doing it back to, I mean, he is Darth Maul just with good intentions.
right,
Bad intentions for evil people, but good intentions overall, right? And that to me says, it just kind of opened up this headcanon about what some Jedi could have been like.
right,
Some Jedi who practiced even Form 4 in its purest form is sort of Sith like, right? Sort of
right,
dark sidey, sort of Batman-y,
right,
right? It's
right,
I feel like Ataru is that Batman line, or Jem So
right,
even, right?
right,
Where you're winning, you're superior, whatever, taking them right up to that inch of death, and then Julia is like, I don't know, do I just take them right through that inch of death? Like, I don't know.
right,
You have that golden ticket in your hand to sort of decide if you're that good. Um,
right,
and that's the Punisher. He's got the golden ticket and he uses it constantly. Darth Maul, anytime he
mhm,
can, he uses that golden ticket. And we see it in Clone Wars, we see it in Rebels, we see it in Ahsoka, right? Well, he wasn't specifically, but you get what I'm getting at here. Um,
right,
and it's just the Batman thing is an interesting comparison for the Punisher. I never really thought of them as being the same character. They're exactly the same character,
right.
without the
Well,
killing.
even if you go into the same universe, right? If you look at the different versions of Robin, you
Mm,
have these kind of ideas, right? You have Dick
that's
Grayson,
very
who
true.
is like Nightwing, who's very much, I am, you know, very much Ataru. I'm an
The Boy
acrobat.
Scout though, like, will
Yeah,
not
right.
go against
So,
Batman's wishes
but
against killing or something like that.
that's another thing, right? That's the difference between Ataru and Geo. Whereas Jason Todd, you know, is the Red Hood who uses a gun.
Yeah,
The thing that
yeah,
Batman would never use. And depending on the writer, he'll either be, the Arkham Knight and kill people, or he'll be Red Hood who uses like rubber bullets.
Well, and
You
even
know,
as Red Robin,
yeah,
he was described by Batman as a perfect little soldier,
yeah,
like
exactly.
amazing at martial arts, but
Hmm.
like followed orders and
Right,
was constantly like trying to be better than the
right,
opponents,
and always
which,
trying to be better than the first Robin.
yeah, which, you know, again, there's just so many layers we can go on from there, but you
Right,
know that in and of itself is a pursuit through the forms, all the forms.
right,
Anyway,
right.
then you have
That
uh,
Tim
other
Drake.
Robins. You got Tim Drake,
Yeah,
right? Tim Drake is sort of your
who's
Obi-Wan Kenobi character.
yeah, he's more the detective,
Mm-hmm.
right? He uses his staff. He
Shien
uses
almost, right? Like,
yeah, a bludgeoning weapon as
mm-hmm.
well, right?
Yep.
To be able to take on multiple opponents and to
Mm-hmm.
be able to have the ability to get distance,
And he,
So
out of all the Robins, in my opinion, is the most adept with all the gadgetry as well.
right,
So
right,
not even not even necessarily like hurting other people, finding alternatives to violence, as it were.
right. And he's very much more of the stealthy Robin,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then
And the
you have
emotional Robin in a good way, like the heart of the
right,
group.
right, and he has a good head on his shoulders.
Oh man, this is
He
such a.
stalled.
We're talking about Form
Yeah,
7. We're talking about
yeah,
Batman and Robin. This is
yeah.
great, man.
Well,
Keep going.
then you have Damian Wayne,
Yes, the ultimate
right?
Juyo
Who
practitioner.
who was taught how to be an assassin, and then
And
you
loves
know,
every second of it.
yeah, and it's like, no, that's just how it is. You want him to end, we just kill the guy, and
Oh,
then Batman having to say, okay, yes, we can, however, we don't,
would you
because
argue that
you know,
Damon? I mean, you could argue against this, but would you say that Damon is sort of like Batman, sort of trying to turn his Juyo into Vapid?
yeah, I would say so. Like every Robin, or let's go on into the mythology of Batman. Every
Go
Robin
for it. We got time.
is a different facet of Batman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, essentially, they all come from, you know, tragedy of different variations, So hit the acrobatic, young kind of, I am going to use fear and surprise and acrobatics to outdo the the criminals. That's more of the Dick Grayson, whereas the mission is the only thing that matters is more Jason Todd,
Mm-hmm.
and then the world's greatest detective part is going to be Tim Drake,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything that's left, all the angst, all the you
Tragedy,
know
darkness,
tragedy and
anger.
darkness, yeah, that's all Damian Wayne,
Yeah.
and being able to see his reflection in each of his Robins and trying to be the person that can make them better and
Oh, you're
bring them
choking me
back
up, dude.
down. Yeah, if you really look at it, uh, that's exactly what he needs
Yeah.
in many situations. He needs to see that part of him, see that
Ooh,
reflection.
let's. Mm. Ooh, you just kind of. You made the brain bubbles gurgle about sort of the Jedi. Really, at any given time, but let's talk
Mhm.
about like the Anakin Skywalker time, um,
Sure.
because the two most prominent practitioners of Form 7 were most prominent at the time of Anakin Skywalker's rise
Sure.
and fall. Um,
Right.
and Darth Maul being at the beginning of that, Mace Windu also being at the beginning of that, but like sort of like what you said about Batman seeing facets of himself in each of the Robins. I often wonder if like Mace Windu didn't see all of these things that he wrestled with in his lightsaber form,
Hmm.
um, in Anakin, and it freaked him the hell out, right?
Right.
Like, because this kid could do all the things that he could do. Just wasn't allowed to learn Form 7, like on a physical sense, right? Wasn't allowed to
Right.
learn like Juyo, the physical sense of it, because like Mace Windu, other Jedi, I mean Yoda, who were we can likely suppose knew Form 7, right? Like Sindralig, who would have been the battle master, who would have taught Anakin most of his basic lightsaber stuff.
Mm.
Um, like to look at a student and go like, I can't give them this because they're just not ready. Or like, man, that's like the darkest part of my personality, that they just show it on their sleeve. I
Right.
I don't know. I don't even really know where I'm going with this, but you kind of made me just think about like what it might have been like. Where first of all, this is a real story, but second of all, like with this fancy little, you know what, walking through the doors of the temple chamber here, and a ship, a cup, a speeder, a cup, a ship. Like, shut up, kid.
Right.
What are you doing? You're screwing with the whole vibe here. Uh, and then, you know, like Mace Windu is not exactly like a nice guy,
Right.
and neither is Anakin all the time. So
Mm.
like he's constantly like slapping Anakin on the wrist for being like a dick, but you know, so is he. It's just I don't even know what to do with all this stuff. Right, my brain is just going all over the place like that, and you're making me think about it with your talk of Batman, because
Mm.
as a martial arts teacher, you see that too, man. Like, how many times have you taught a student something and they really take to it almost in a way that's like scary? You're like, oh man, like maybe I shouldn't have done that yet. Maybe I should have saved that for like later. Uh,
So, so
do you know what I'm getting
there's
at?
a I do. There is a saying that uh, it's a saying that is both. It depends on who says it to you, but there's a saying in martial arts and in martial arts schools that is both an insult and a compliment, depending on who says it to you. And that saying is, "You move like your master.
Right,
You move like your teacher."
right.
And it's like when depending on how it's said, and I mean everything's depending on how it's said,
And who says
but
it? Yeah, right.
and depending on how it's said and who says it, it can be the greatest compliment, or it could be like the worst insult, because there are certain things to do in order to change. Like everything evolves, including martial arts. I assure you, your version of whatever kata you're doing right now will be different in 10 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Certainly
if you
different
do
than
it
the first person who made it up. I
right,
guarantee it's not the same.
yeah, but that's because it had to evolve. I remember teaching specific techniques before, and people just couldn't do it the way that my teacher taught me.
Yeah.
But also my teacher taught me that it's not his job to teach my students. It's mine.
Mm.
So like, it,
That's a
he,
good teacher teaching you.
yeah, yeah. So he's like, no, like I'm teaching you the way I was taught, but it's up to you to come up with a way that you're teaching other people that may not be have the same story as you. Their bodies might not be able to do what you can do, or
Yeah, that's really deep.
have the experience. So, if you want to even look further into the master apprentice relationship, look at the crazy, like, before. I think it's like the third to last or maybe second to last episode of Ahsoka, when our man Anakin Skywalker shows up in the world between worlds,
Yep.
and he's just, he lays it out for Ahsoka. He's like, no, you have within you will be everything that I am. The knowledge that's been passed down to you. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if this is actually the thing,
No, but
but he just says,
yeah,
but he
the good, the
says,
bad, the ugly.
yeah, just as I inherited from my master, and he from his. He's like, you're part of this legacy. And it's a crazy, oh yeah, that's right.
Well, that's a
This
black belt lineage, is it not?
yeah, and that's the what I'm
That's
getting
what you're
to
getting
is
at. Yep.
the that you know in many of the examples we talked about today with Star Wars, with martial arts, with Batman, there is a lineage, right? That happens. There's alumnus. There are different things. So when we talk about Juyo, when we talk about Vapad, or Vapad or Vapad, there is a reason that you got to where you are, and there's always a a way to get to the point of like not getting into the Juyo,
Yeah.
but actually getting so close to the edge that you can pull it back and be like, no, this is just, what is it? Dune that has the catechism against fear.
I don't know. I don't speak Dune.
Yeah.
I maybe should, but I don't speak Dune as of yet.
uh, so the catechism of fear is that, uh, let me see if I can remember it. The catechism of fear is I shall not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Uh, it's like I will let it pass through me, so that only I am left.
That sounds a
Right.
lot
So
like the Code of the
yeah,
Sith.
yeah. But his the whole point, the litany of fear, is basically the test of the human uh, the human capacity to go beyond a fear response.
Mm.
Right. So I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. Like that's pretty intense,
Yeah,
right?
I would say.
So
Yeah.
um, it's like this crazy like things like okay, well, yeah, it is a uh, thing, but because if it is something that you do constantly and you look up at that point where you're at that point of total obliteration
Mm-hmm.
and you face it, I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it's gone past, I will train the inner eye to see its path. Where that fear, where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. That to me is Babbitt, right?
Mm.
That to me
Mm.
is very much the point where like, no, I've gone through this whole thing. I I'm okay with where I am, who I am. I don't have to destroy,
Mm-hmm.
and again, that restraint is more martial art, right?
Yeah.
Than it is combat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much that
Yeah, we didn't
same
even
idea.
distinguish those two, but that is a good distinction to have made, even if we don't do it often. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, mm,
But yeah, that's another way to look at it is like there is a way to practice that is not about um, just destroying the other person
mm-hmm.
or hurting them. You can use a lot of the same techniques. For example, we talked about like what are our training techniques for a pod. So the version of a pod that I teach is 1,000 cut form. You actually have to do 1,000 different cuts in succession in order to get the thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
That hey, you get it, you know it, you understand.
Mm,
Because one, most people won't even count to 1,000.
sure.
You know, two, like to have the patience to actually go through 1,000 cuts in succession and do them correctly, that in itself is insane, right? That
Mm-hmm.
that in itself is like, okay, well, you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the energy. You can reel yourself in at any time because it's that same focus and determination
Oh, I
that
like
that'll
that
do it.
concept. That the same thing that would maybe make you give up or give in
Mhm.
is the same muscle or reflex that helps you hold back or control.
Yeah.
That is wow. That's a bite of steak, man. Yeah. Wow. That is 100% true. I mean, it's hitting me like a ton of bricks right now. That's 100% true. Like, and you hear that from people like with like addiction,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're really just like, first of all, don't take this as any sort of, if you have addiction issue, don't take this as any sort of advice or anything. I'm just spitballing right now. I'm just an idiot with a
Sure.
microphone. Please go get some help. But like, just to dabble on it in lighthearted sense, like they often say that you're just substituting. You're not getting rid of the addiction. You're just
Hmm.
substituting one for another. And
Right.
I've heard that with martial arts from a lot of people, a
Yeah.
whole lot of people, especially like those people who are at jujitsu class 6 days a week, right? Those people, a lot. I don't want to say a lot of them, but some of the ones that I have met, jujitsu became the substitute for pills or the substitute for cigarettes, whatever, uh,
Uh,
junk food. Um,
right.
and I'm just using jujitsu because right now that's a really popular martial art for people. Um, Again, it's a soft art too. Like if you have addiction issues and you get addicted to the feeling of punching people hard, like maybe that's not the martial art for you, right?
Hmm.
Or maybe it is, and you just have to get a lot of fights. So there's all these ways to sort of temper that, but the sense that it's the same muscle, the same and I say muscle because that's the way I think of it. I had a teacher um, who called it the quit muscle,
Hmm.
and he used to tell, like when he was teaching teachers, he would say you don't want to strengthen your students quit muscle, you want
Hmm.
to strengthen like their perseverance muscle, or whatever the word, that
Hmm.
age group that would understand that, right? Their
Sure.
keep going muscle is what you'd say to the little kids, or adults
Right.
understand, right?
Right.
But you really are strengthening the quit muscle because it's the same muscle. It's that giving into quitting is, or giving into succeeding, right? Like, and giving into, like it said in this Wikipedia article, giving into relishing the fight or relishing the victory,
Right.
or giving into just like sheer overpowering decimation. Like there's this happy Punisher Daredevil line to walk, um,
Hmm.
at all times in all things. And
Right.
I guess that's also kind of the definition of yin and yang in a way too, right? Like you're constantly vibing this sense of it could go this way or it could go that way. And not everything is that black and white,
Right.
but it's certainly got the nuance of black and white to it in all things. And
Right.
man, you really got me thinking with this. That
Hmm.
this is a way. I did not expect this episode to be this deep. I definitely expected us to yuckle a little bit about some Phantom Menace and all this cool stuff. But
Sure.
this is great. Um,
All right. Well, let's talk about that the uh, evolution of the character in the Phantom Menace. He
sure.
did
Yeah,
use
let's just switch it right
Geo,
into it.
right?
Go for it.
He kept on going, right? Everything that he did that we saw in the Clone Wars was just Geo constantly, right?
Oh yeah.
And he was always about revenge. He was always about
Mm-hmm.
like doing that, and every single person that beat him was just like, nope, that's not gonna work. Nope, that's not gonna work.
Yep.
They just shut him down,
Yep.
and usually the people that he did beat were, like you said, not uh, force practitioners
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that, and
They
a
tried to
lot of
get
the time,
who
yeah,
the people he beat tried to get in a sword fight with the best swordsman they could find,
right,
versus figuring a way to win a fight with another fighter.
right,
It's a whole
right,
different thing.
right.
Uh, look,
And that's the thing though, is like even like his absolute end in the episode Twin Sons, of Rebels was like, it's this is you're still doing the same thing, man.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan exploits it, and Obi-Wan says, "Well, you're done." And he
Well, and
just
what was
and
Obi-Wan? Magnificently skilled with the Force.
yeah,
And
and he
not that
was
he
very,
needed to use the Force powers, but just
but
his grip on it, right? That
he
was how he
outthought him.
knew that Darth
Yeah,
Maul was going to do the same crap he always did.
and he outthought him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He saw or he baited him into doing the same thing
Yes.
because it's the same thing that won Maul so many fights. And now when you look at it, you're just like, well, that makes sense. Makes the most sense. But even at the end, he was just like, oh, yeah, he's the chosen one. He's the one that will avenge us all. And Obi-Wan's like, you still didn't learn.
Yeah.
It's not about revenge. He's not going to strike down, his father. He's not going to strike down Palpatine in the end. And that's, I think, only possible because we know how it's going to end
Mm-hmm.
to that sort of thing. But it's one of those deals that if we're talking about Form 7, we're talking about, again, 25 years of Darth Maul. It's a quarter century of Zabrak excellence, right? But, but,
Yeah, he
but,
really did bring the excellence.
yeah, but not, not in the right way,
No, right.
right? And he showed you like, yes, physically you can do all this stuff, but it does take mental, emotional, spiritual growth in order to master it or to be um, content with it, really.
So on that note, I think we should wrap up soon. But using Juyo as our oh my god. Every time we do one of these episodes on the forums, it's like, my gosh, we scratched about 13% of what we need to talk about.
Sure.
But hey, we have a podcast. We can do more than one episode on each of these forms. That's the best part about it. And actually, we're due for a Swords and Sabers anytime now. So I'm gonna get Kay on for that one. And
Cool.
I don't know. We'll see if Mr. Golf himself has any time to talk Form 2 with us. But I think using Form 7 just to kind of, I don't know, not even wrap this up, just to leave more questions in the air, I guess.
Hmm.
That the Phantom Menace, Darth Maul, I mean, that's really what got people like you, me, to
Hmm.
take what we already loved and realize that we could mix it with this other thing that we really loved, which was the martial arts and Star Wars. Like for years and years, all kids all over the world had been swinging broomsticks and flashlights around.
Hmm.
And like for some reason, we just all of a sudden got this gift from George Lucas where we actually got to see what we were pretending to do for between 1977 and 1997 or
Right.
1999. Right? So this is then we see it. We were like, "Oh my god, he wasn't kidding." Like
Right.
this is legit. And by the way, Nick Gillard is not even really like a martial artist. Like the guy's like a trapeze artist and like a circus clown, literal circus clown. Like who happens to have a really good eye for martial arts and
Hmm.
hired some good stunt and fight um, actors to help him really give. I mean, every martial artist I know gives a ton of respect to that first show of lightsaber choreography in the Phantom Menace. Just everybody I
Right.
know. Uh,
Right.
and then
Well, so to be fair
go ahead.
to Nick Gillard, he was an actor and stunt director uh, for this, and you're looking at a guy that was supposed to be was the stunt double for Mark Hamill in Return of the Jedi. You know,
Is that true?
yeah,
I didn't know. Why didn't I
and
know that? Oh my gosh, that's
and
cool.
Sindralic is his name spelled
Yeah,
backwards.
yeah, yep,
You
yep.
know, so there's like a whole thing. Big ups to Nick Gillard
Well,
because
absolutely, and I've talked before about how like my friend Bede um,
mhm,
started these seven forms with me. He didn't even realize he
mhm,
was doing it for years. But
yeah,
he's not a martial artist either. But like,
mhm,
like just has an eye, just has a vibe, right? And Nick Gillard for sure. You can tell in the behind the scenes stuff too, like just the way he swings the sword and his eye for the
mhm,
motion.
mhm. Well, he did a couple of other movies that you might know of: Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves,
Yep, yep.
Wanted. The he did
I don't
Count
want
of
to say
Monte
he has
Cristo.
no martial arts training. I don't think that's true, but
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't
he
say he's
did.
a martial artist primarily.
Yeah. Well, he held the record for like a fire stunt. Like
That I
he
knew.
was a stuntman.
Like
Yeah.
he was
He
on
did.
fire for an obscenely long amount of time or
Yeah.
something like that.
In a little movie called Alien 3, he was the guy that was lit on
You
fire
might have heard of it before.
by the thing. Yeah. So I mean, he did. He was in military school. He joined the circus, like he said. He did like a ton of stuff,
And he
and
brought Ray Park to the world.
yes, he was. He did Sleepy Hollow. He was in Raiders and Indiana Jones. Then The Last
Oh my
Crusade.
god. Didn't
He
he do some of
he.
the stunt work for the Young Indiana Jones series as well?
Probably. Let me
Probably.
see here.
Wow.
If you look up his filmography, it looks like his first credit was The Spy Who Loved Me, a James Bond flick, and then For
So,
Your Eyes Only,
so let's give
and then
credit to Nick Gillard
Crow.
too for more right now. Let's just go
Okay.
on this tangent because
Yeah.
we're celebrating all kinds of stuff tonight with talk about
Yeah.
Form 7, talk about May, talk about
Hmm.
Phantom Menace. So
Hmm.
this guy, like, I don't even know if he knows how much fire he ignited and how many people he did it in. Right? Like,
Right.
um, he holds the record for the fire stunt. So there you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, look at what he knows how to do, right? He was in the circus, so he knows how to work with, you know, dangerous things from um, different things that you do in the circus, right? If he was a clown or a horse rider, you know, going through a bunch of stuff, a bunch
anything.
of stunts, yeah,
Yeah.
especially like being in the circus is no joke. It's a dangerous
Oh my
stuff as a
gosh, yes.
performer, and you learn how to do it, and if it's part of your life, and you go through this whole thing, and you look at the the ability to do a lot of that stuff live over and
Yeah.
over again, right? And then you just apply it to film. Like we need to get it right once. We'll do it over and over again, but we just really need to get it
We
right
just need to
once.
get it right once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
So
they talk about
yeah.
that in the behind the scenes for Revenge of the Sith, how,
Mhm.
how many hours and hours and
Mhm.
hours they spent rehearsing that fight and how long it
Mhm.
actually was.
Mhm.
Um, and then when they like filmed it, I, they say they did it in one take or,
Mhm.
stop takes and such, but
Mhm.
like even if it's not true, it's just incredible to be able to do like I have taken apart that Revenge of the Sith choreography over the years many times,
Mhm.
and I've performed versions of it before. And like, it is intricate, and not all of it. Some of it is very
Mhm.
simple and cut and dry, but like the speed, the efficiency, and it's the
Mhm.
trust you have to have with the other person that they're not actually
Mhm.
going to cut your freaking head off.
Right.
Um, oh,
Yeah,
and
it's a thing too, right? Is especially when you do stuff. Um, like he comes from a circus background, and circuses are usually performed in rings, right?
yeah,
So you have almost 360-degree view
just
of
like
whatever
martial arts.
stunt that you're doing. So like then that means that it's up to the director, in this case George Lucas, to point his camera wherever he wants
Yeah.
because it looks good in every single
Mm-hmm.
thing. But there's certain techniques that only look good from certain places.
Yeah.
Like our man Spawn, Michael Jai White, he talks about like
I
the
forgot he
difference
was
between
Spawn, man. I totally
yeah
forgot that was Michael
yeah.
Jai.
But
Oh.
he has a great interview where he talks about like I can't fight in a movie the same way I would fight in real life because it looks like crap,
Yeah.
right? It looks sloppy.
Yeah.
Like the things that would work in real life don't work if the cameras are rolling.
Yes.
So a lot
Yes.
of stuff has to be telegraphed. A lot of stuff has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do that sort of thing, like there are certain techniques and movements that just look amazing when you look at it from one angle and one angle only,
Yeah.
and to keep actors safe, right?
Yeah.
But in the fights, you'll notice, especially in a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, you'll see that they are in distance. They have, they
Yes.
actually have to move in order to not get hit.
Yes.
There's a thing where that way it frees up
Yes.
whoever's directing, like, okay, where am I going to go? Where am I going to do? And that's a different
Alan,
vibe.
oh, I'm so glad. Let's talk about this because as a martial artist,
Hmm.
it's so important to me when I watch choreographed fighting that element is there, that they're actually in range, that they're actually throwing punches or sword cuts at the actual body, not like I know a lot of choreography is taught, especially for stage, taught in a way where you put your sword in this zone and I'm aiming at your sword, which I expect to show up in that zone. I'm not going to tell those people they're wrong. I'm just going to tell you I don't think it's right. I think the right way to do it is to get a little bit of martial arts training or go somewhere where somebody knows what they're doing in actual fighting and learn that part of it. Learn to be actually in measure. Learn to be actually aiming for, because you can tell in movies when they're not aiming at each
Right.
other. I'm thinking about the Roadhouse movie, the one that just came out. We were having a good
Hmm.
chuckle about that, but legitimately, the camera work and the stunt work and the stuff that they did with a real fighter in Conor McGregor and a guy who has had to watch a lot of real fighters in Jake Gyllenhaal. The
Hmm.
the things that they were doing, it looked like they were beating the living crap out of each other. It looked
So,
like the punches were aimed at the right spots. The knees were connecting. And they even said in some of the stuff, like, yeah, there were a few times where we really knocked the piss out of each other. Like,
yeah.
but that should happen. You should be so deep into the fight scene, Obi-Wan and Anakin. They're so deep in rehearsing this fight scene. Once in a while, they just barely go too fast. They nick a finger or something like that. Like that should happen. If it's
Right.
not happening, and let's say we have some listeners who fight choreography is their main way that they're involved in saber fighting. I think of like Saber Guild members and stuff. I know we have a couple people who listen who are involved in Saber Guild, and that's great. Do that. Don't let me stop you. I'm just saying you need to have that realism. You need to learn what it's like to have that measure correct, to where the sword is or the saber is inches from connecting with your cheek, but you're not worried. You know where to put your blade to block and then push it out of range or whatever. Um, oh man, I'm so glad you said that because it's so lacking in so many people's demonstrations. And I'm not coming down on them. I'm just like, man, it's so easy if you practice it a little bit.
Right. And that's when you'll notice the difference between somebody that might just be starting the idea of choreography and somebody that has practiced it so many times that they trust their
Well,
partner
and that's what you see
to.
in the Star Wars movies. To take it right back full
Hmm.
circle to this beautiful
Hmm.
celebration we're having tonight, like that's what Nick Gillard and Ray Park and And then even these non-martial artists like Ewan McGregor, who busted his ass for
Hmm.
still busting his ass in his 50s now. Um,
Hmm.
you know, uh, Liam Neeson, who at the time um, was about as picturesque of a human specimen as could have possibly existed, but still like no spring chicken, right? Like, and he just
Hmm.
busted his ass to learn this stuff, trying to keep up with 21-year-old Ray Park, right? And like that is just so special to have seen that take place over not just the three movies, but even now, like you you kind of see the evolution of the fight scene in Force Awakens where Rey and Kylo or Finn, like they're
Hmm.
doing that in measure thing, but like it does kind of look a little bit like kids playing toys. And then
Hmm.
when you see them fight the Praetorian Guards in the next movie, like it looks a lot more like violence, right? A lot more
Right.
like fighting. And
Right.
then in the end of the Skywalker Jammy Jam, Rise of Skywalker, um,
Hmm.
just the way that the two of them fight together at the end. It's just the way that Kylo's little scene where he's fighting against Palpatine's minions. It's just, or his Knights of Ren at the end there. It's
Hmm.
just you kind of see that evolution of the realism taking place all of a sudden. Like
Right.
it goes from kids playing toys to now fighting and sword fighting,
Right.
which in the Phantom Menace, like you get right into the sword fighting because this is the Jedi at the absolute peak of their peakness.
Hmm.
And then Attack of the Clones, still more of the same. And then Revenge of the Sith, the pimple pops, right? Like it's just too awesome for anybody to handle, right? And
Right.
and I don't know if that's necessarily true for all the fights in Revenge. I sometimes wish that we had really gotten that extended version of the Palpatine fight. But then you think about it, like would we have gotten the Ultimate Form 7 Master versus the Ultimate Sith Master if he didn't crash land Kit Fisto, who is the ultimate Shicho master, right?
Right.
Sazy Teen, who is a phenomenal swordsman and able to withstand all sorts of physical torture, and Eth Koth, who also was lauded as one of the finest swordsmen in the order. Like
Right.
Mace Windu's not rolling with some chumps, right? He's not going to go
Right.
try and take down the master of the galaxy with some chumps. He's taken in the baddest Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, Wonder Boy Thompson, uh, Rampage Jackson that he can find. That's what he's doing. So
Right.
I do think on some levels, yeah, like just the sense of like what that that team brought to the lightsaber fighting was such a critical element of the storytelling in those movies. Such a critical element, more so than it has been in any of the other stuff so far. I would argue in
Hmm.
Ahsoka, it was pretty good and prominent.
Oh yeah.
And Clone Wars over time, I thought Clone Wars really had some cool characterization of the fight scenes and things, a Gillard esque nature to it.
Hmm.
Um, and again, that maybe that's Filoni and his time on Avatar, which is a super respectful show as far as the martial arts are concerned. Like you can't get a better animated exhibition of martial arts than the Avatar series.
Right.
Wow, we've been all over the world on this episode. I have to stop us. There's too much to do. Uh, we're going to table Juyo and Vapid and all this. We're going to come back to the other forums coming up soon here. Check out our Swords and Sabers, which I'm going to schedule that here coming up, Alan. So don't let me
All
forget
right.
about that.
Sounds good.
Summer is the perfect time for Swords and Sabers. So we'll do that. And we do have, I'm not going to announce who yet. I teased this a couple episodes ago. We do have a very special guest who has confirmed that he would love to come on the show. We're just working on scheduling right now. This gentleman is a master of all things involving Japanese swords and samurai martial arts. Just
Absolutely.
a wealth of knowledge, and from what I understand, a super cool dude. So
Huh?
that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know when yet. I don't want to say who yet, just because I don't want to promise things that, busy people, busy times. So, but we do have confirmation that he would like to come on. So that is hopefully like around the corner. I
Mhm.
can't wait. I was gonna like do like a whole like Q&A with him. I think we're just gonna sit down. I might even pour a glass of scotch and we're gonna let it happen. Um,
Oh yeah.
it'll be good. Maybe I'll have to get sake for this one. Uh, um, and coming up, Saber Mayhem. I mentioned that earlier. Go to strategicon.net if you feel like you may be able to attend in person, or if you just want to like, because there's going to be other podcasts, other panels, anything
Mhm.
gaming and role play is going to be at this convention. So I think that if you're interested in that stuff, it can't hurt you to type in strategicon.net and just see what's going on. Um,
Absolutely.
some other fandoms that you might be interested in, maybe doing other live streams and things that you can gobble up. So that'll be cool. Keep
Yeah.
your eyes on our YouTube channel. We just recently, or I just recently, but the plan is that Alan's going to be involved in this. We got it's going to be fun. We just started a new series, and I actually did not release a regular podcast episode this week because we did two videos of this. I will release a regular episode by the end of this week, but probably on May the 4th, just because. Uh, but we have a new series called Gamer Martial Arts, which is your main man. That's me. So far, playing Jedi Survivor on New Journey Plus mode. I also have some. The idea is to play video games that are either Star Wars or very heavily martial arts influenced. Like I have Ghost of Tsushima on the docket here. Uh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because why not? Right. So some of the retro Star Wars games, and hopefully we'll get some guest stars on these as well. But for right now, the first two videos of me playing Jedi Survivor in New Game Plus mode, I'm having a lot of fun. Some of my janky jump and platforming skills are in full effect, and
Nice.
it is. I don't curse a lot, but it is uncensored, and
Mhm.
that is something different than this show, this specific, the normal podcast. So that's cool. If I die a lot and a boss just got my number, then you will probably hear a 4-letter word or two. So that may be your thing. But just to warn you, it is uncensored. I'm sorry. I'm playing video games. I'm not going to censor that. It's too much fun. So that is its own playlist on our YouTube channel. So search for Saber Martial Arts, Gamer Martial Arts, and it should pop up. If not, type in Gamer Martial Arts Jedi Survivor, and you will find it. I promise. And you will hear this liquidy olive oil voice for like an hour. My cow has a mohawk, Alan. I thought you might appreciate that. Um, and then also keep your eyes on our Instagram at SMA Foundation. If you type in at Saber Martial Arts, you'll get our old Instagram, which is fine. There's pictures up there, but Instagram won't let us access that one anymore for some reason. So at SMA Foundation, and you will get all the good stuff that we're releasing, podcast episode releases, anything like that pops up on there. Plus, you just get like some fun images and stuff too. Lastly, if you are interested in certain martial arts equipment, and I think, Alan, in an upcoming episode soon here, we're going to do a little talk about some of the other gear, some of the maybe not actual sabers per se, but some of the actual like clothing or little bits of armor and such that we like to use, shoes, whatever. We're going to do an
Right.
episode like that. So if you're interested in some of those things, we will soon be offering products from Century Martial Arts, products from Asian World of Martial Arts, potentially products from Absolute Fencing, and um, that will include something that we talk about constantly and we're constantly promoting the use of, which are the Action Flex foam sabers. That's something that soon here you will be able to get through our either our website or one of our online presences. So we're dialing those details in right now, and our goal is that you are not going to pay more than what you would pay if you get it from the company itself. And if you are a SMAF listener or affiliate, then you are actually going to pay less. So that is the goal, and a very, very near future goal. On that note, we have some t-shirt designs coming out soon. We got some fun stuff. So if you're a nerd, you like to swing a saber, you like to put pajamas on and tie them with a cotton or silk belt and bow to other grown people, you're in the right place, and we'll have some fun merch for you. That will also include training weapons, uniforms. The options, I don't want to say are endless, but we got a new sabersmith we're potentially talking to. It's just, yeah, it's a good time to be a nerd. So
Yep.
we're here for it, and we're here for you. SaberMartialArts.life. This has been your main man Fode for Sifu Venable. Bring your own saber.
This is the May.